country church that brings me closer to my Savior. A little bit of heaven, a whole lot of love left behind.
Well, good morning and rise and shine, Franklin County, bright and early on this Friday morning. We hope that you are having a great week, staying safe out there and preparing for an exciting weekend. We have a jam-packed show for you on this Friday morning, and we're going to kick it off by talking about the things that have been going on and are preparing at Ferrum College, as we have a familiar face with us to our Rise and Shine family. But if you would, introduce yourself and your role there at Ferrum College.
Absolutely. It's great to see you again,
Yes,
by the way.
absolutely.
I'm David Johns. I'm the president at Ferrum, and I've been president since January of 18.
And you've been on the show a couple of times,
I have.
talking about a couple of different topics over the last couple of years, the last couple of months, however you want to look at it. But talk to us a little bit about what has been going on at Ferrum, maybe even going back a couple of months.
Sure.
To when all of this madness maybe began, and kind of get us up to date on what we're doing at this point.
Absolutely. Well, the last couple of months have felt like a couple years. So anyway, but yeah, when I was here last time, it was a different world. Not only was it cold and icy outside, but this was pre-COVID. And so in March, like everyone else, we had to begin making some significant changes. And we started watching very early on in March. We started a pandemic task force at the beginning of the month just to pay attention to what was happening. And as you know, things began to roll pretty quickly. And so we made a decision to move all of our teaching remotely, and we did that in just a matter of a couple days. Faculty were great with it, and then students began going home. First a couple hundred, and then a few more, and so on. And so the campus became pretty quiet by the time we got to the middle of April. But since that time, the cabinet, my team has been meeting almost on a daily basis to work out plans for what this semester is going to look like.
Mm-hmm. And we were talking about a little bit before we came on, and a little bit of the inside workings of the things that have been going on. You have a couple of members to that cabinet and to these different positions who have never met in the same room, but they've met every day virtually. So that's a unique aspect.
It's a very strange aspect. I talked to my president peers, and nobody quite understands this dynamic. But yes, my senior team has never been in the same room together yet. We had some personnel changes in April, and they've been a part of the process from the very beginning, but never in the same room. And so we've all learned in every industry how to do our work remotely, and we're all becoming familiar with the little boxes on our screen and interacting that way. But yeah, we've met on a weekly, the Board of Trustees has met on a weekly basis, and the cabinet on a daily basis, working on this, because as you know, things change very, very quickly, and we want to be ready for all of that.
Absolutely, and we're going to be covering a wide range of topics this morning,
Yes.
a wide swath of different things involving Ferrum College. But before we get started, what are some ways that folks can stay in tuned? Maybe they don't have a student, maybe they don't live in the Ferrum community, but they can stay in tuned with what's going on there at the college.
Yeah, thanks for asking. It's important because there's a lot of stuff going on. You can follow us on any of our social media pages. We have a bunch of those. There's the Ferrum College one. We have one for athletics. We have one for a number of different clubs and organizations. So like us on Facebook or Instagram, Twitter, follow us that way. We also have a website called Stronger Together. And if people are interested in what we're doing to keep our campus community safe, what our reopening plans are like, Stronger Together answers all of those questions, and it's available to anyone who's interested.
Mm-hmm. And going back to the spring when things made that change, you guys quickly were able to switch things over into an online learning environment and keeping folks safe. So what are we looking at as we get ready to head into the fall? What is Ferrum College going to look like as you guys prepare to open up?
Well, come back, invite me back, and we'll talk about that. We'll see what that looks like. But what we've been doing to get ready for that is first of all, we know that things can change quickly on a dime. Faculty were amazing when we switched in the spring. We basically made an announcement on Thursday, and by the next Wednesday, all the classes were online. We hope that doesn't happen again, but we need to be ready in case it does. So one of the things, all of our faculty, 100% of our faculty are now certified in teaching online. That's what they've been doing this summer. Some have had experience with it before, some didn't. We did the best we could in the spring, but we know we need to do an even better job this semester. So we've been working on that. Also, the semester is going to be divided into 2 parts, and that's a big change. So students will be taking fewer courses each one of those, so maybe 3 courses, one in one of those terms and 2 courses in another. But that's also designed so that we can shift quickly if we need to. We have some students who have decided they're going to study completely online this semester. Some who are international students who are having a difficult time getting back in the country because of the pandemic, and some just because of health reasons or someone that they're living with. So that's going to be very different. We've got about 1/3 of our faculty who will be teaching remotely, won't be on campus. And even the courses that are on campus are hybrid. So that means they won't be in the classroom every single day of the week. So we're trying to make sure that we keep distanced and practice safe protocols all the way through.
Yes. And I know from following you on social media and from getting the different press releases from the college that students who will be coming back to campus, you guys have a plan to where they will be taking those precautions leading up to actually physically arriving back on campus.
Yes, every student is required 14 days prior to coming to campus to be monitoring their health. And we have an app called Live Safe, which a lot of colleges are using. And it's very simple. You kind of do a health check-in every day and you get a green check or a red X. And a lot of faculty and staff will be using that as kind of access into offices, into classrooms, etc. But yeah, this is something that requires all of us working together for it to work. And what's really interesting, so many students want to come back, and it's interesting, so many want to come back that they're creating kind of a positive peer pressure with each other, saying, "Don't mess this up. You know, this is our home. Let's make this work."
Yes, absolutely. And another aspect of Ferrum College, as you very well know, and that you've very much bought into, is the community aspect of it. It's a community school,
it is.
Very much like the elementary schools around our county. That folks use the college every day for walking or for recreation. But when students come back onto campus, how are visitors on campus? Will that change? Will that look different? Kind of walk us through that.
We're very happy to be a community partner, and you're right. It's impossible to be in a place like Franklin County and the village of Ferrum and not feel that connection. I mean, it's very, very powerful. And we do have people who walk and run and spend time on campus. When students start coming back, unfortunately, beginning next week, we're going to restrict access to campus to just our faculty, staff, and students and approved visitors, contractors, consultants, people of that sort. It breaks my heart to do that, but we're taking so many precautions along the way. We just need to err on the side of extreme caution as much as we possibly can.
Sure. And if maybe there's a student who's out there who's maybe getting ready to come back to continue their education there at Ferrum, or maybe this is their first time beginning their college experience at Ferrum, kind of walk us through what that's going to look like for them, maybe some of the steps they may be having to take.
Sure.
Just for the actual student themselves that may be watching.
Well, if I may, let me speak to the parent for a moment, because parents are thinking about a lot of things these days. But one of the things I would say is Ferrum College, if you've not been on campus, it's a 700-acre campus. We were socially distancing before it was a thing. And so we've got a lot of room to stretch out and breathe fresh air and so on. I would say the advisors and deans are great companions for students as they're beginning their journey in. We've got check-in procedures that are online. So a lot of those processes where generally you have lines and groups of people on the first day or two of classes, we won't have those, so that it can be a bit of a safer entry. It's going to be different for those who are just getting started in college. There isn't a frame of reference, I guess. So this fall 2020 is going to kind of set the pattern for them in a lot of ways. But for others, there will be some sense of normalcy. I mean, it will be a familiar place and familiar people, but just we're keeping our distance, we're wearing masks, and so on. And so in that sense, it's going to look a bit different.
Absolutely. And another thing that a lot of folks in our community, as well as students, and we know that you're a big part in our athletics.
Yes.
And we know that fall, going back to school, a lot of those athletics, including football and other things, getting kicked back off. Going to be a little bit different this year, but the decision has already been made.
The decision has already been made, and those who are sports fans have been watching changes throughout college athletics all across the country. And yes, in the spring, partway through the season, as you might remember, the season was just canceled, basically postponed. And there, on ESPN, actually, there was some coverage of our baseball team that had a senior night, which was really, really pretty special. It was an inter-squad game, which was fantastic. We were really hoping and planning for a fall season. We were making steps, taking steps in that direction. But our conference, the ODAC, made a decision together. It was a unanimous decision of presidents and ADs to postpone the fall season. There's just no way that we can do it safely and transport people back and forth to this college, to that college, and so on. So again, it's disappointing. Our plan is at this point that those athletes will be working out, they'll be scrimmaging each other in smaller groups and all that sort of thing. So athletics will happen in a different form, but competition between schools won't, and we won't have fans in the stands and things of that sort. But I have to tell you, one thing that I'm really grateful for, and this speaks to the kind of support that we have from our alumni and friends. Even though that's been what the season looked like in the spring and is going to look like this fall, this last year we had a 33% increase in the gifts that came to our annual fund, and about a 40% increase in the amount of money given for our athletic programs. We doubled the number of donors supporting Ferrum College athletics. Everybody's having a hard time with their own finances, their work at home, and so it's a tough time in philanthropy, but people are reaching out and supporting these programs at the college, and athletics is certainly top on the list.
Mm-hmm. And I know we have a couple of other things that we want to talk about. Is there anything else that's COVID-related, pandemic-related that we kind of want to hit before we move on to some new things that are going to be coming to the college?
Yeah, when ESPN started in 1978, one of their taglines was "all sports, all the time." And at the college, these last several months has been all pandemic, all the time. So it's been nice to think about some other things. But no, I would be remiss if I didn't say this great mass that I have over the next couple days. A gift of $35 to the annual fund, our Ferrum fund, and you can get a nice branded Ferrum mask.
There you go.
Be stylish as you're socially distancing and so on. But I would say that's, again, a lot of things have been going on, some changes that, some that we wouldn't have done had we not been in the midst of a pandemic. But I would say our motto at the college is not self but others. And we've seen that modeled again and again and again by the way people have taken care of each other and taken care of the community.
Yes. And with that being said, new things coming to the college. Things have not stopped at Ferrum College.
No.
It's a couple of new programs that are being added. So kind of hit us with those couple of new and exciting things that are happening.
Very good. Nothing makes me happier than pivoting away from it, talking about the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So yeah, when I was here last time, we were planning to begin launching graduate programs. We were waiting for final approval. We've received that approval. Our graduate programs are now active. We have students in those programs. Mm-hmm. There's one in teacher education, an EDS, an education specialist degree, and then also a master's degree in psychology. And so those are launched. And so for the first time in the history of Ferrum College, we're offering graduate programs. Wow. Also, just in the last week or two, we launched our RN to BSN program. For working professionals, and that's exciting. We've got a number of students in that program, so it's real now, and that feels very, very good. If you're familiar with campus, Vaughn Chapel, on the lower level of Vaughn Chapel, the Tri-Area Health Center was located for a number of years. They've now moved across the street into a great new facility, and so we're renovating, remodeling that space for health education and for the nursing program. So as we speak, Walls are being moved around, and construction is happening there for our nursing program. We'll be receiving a visit fairly soon from the Virginia Board of Nursing to look at our RN, or I'm sorry, our BSN program, which we hope to have approved in just a very short time.
Sure. And if folks remember back to our last conversation, when we kind of were initially talking about these, you were talking about the community aspect of these programs, that they're being community driven on what graduate programs would be offered at Ferrum based upon the needs of the community. Are there any others that are in the works now, or that are in the thought process of coming down the pike?
Yes, and of course, right. It's important for us to meet the needs of learners in our community, and our community's needs. Thus, education. It builds on a strength that we've had, and counseling is terribly important, right? We're looking at some other things that will build on our strengths in environmental science and in business and so on. We're not quite ready to roll those out just yet. We wanted to get the first ones off the ground. The first one's always the most challenging one, and now we're there, so we're ready to begin moving there. But again, we're trying to pay attention to industry, to business leaders in our community, to needs in Southwest Virginia, and we're open to all kinds of suggestions, and eager to talk to someone who might have a good idea.
Yes, yes. Well, is there anything that we've missed? We've covered a wide range of topics and things about the spring and the closing of things, and transitioning over to that virtual learning, to new programs, to what things will look like in the fall.
Right.
Is there anything that we've missed?
I would just say that Ferrum College has been an important community partner since 1913, and we intend to be there in new and in these challenging times. Mm-hmm. And so we're working hard to keep our students focused on service, focused on community, and living into that motto, not self but others. Now more than any time ever, that's important. And so we plan to keep going, even as we change into whatever the post-pandemic world looks like.
Yes, absolutely. And one more time before we close our conversation, the websites and social medias that folks can go to for information.
Yes, we're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Find us there. Also, the Stronger Together website. Go to ferrum.edu and then click on Stronger Together, and you can see all of our plans for reopening and how we're planning to be safe on our campus.
Well, thank you very much for coming out bright and early on this Friday morning, and continue the good work there at Ferrum College, and we'll continue to talk about all the things that you guys have going on, and good luck on the start of a new school year.
Very good. All right, we'll see you next time, hopefully without masks.
Right, yes.
All right.
And with that being said, we're going to take a quick break, give you a chance to listen to our wonderful sponsors, and we're going to be back to continue our community conversation this morning. We have a couple of gentlemen who are going to be talking about some issues going on in our community, as well as registering to vote and a lot of other things. So we hope that you'll tune in. If you're watching us on Facebook Live, we hope that you'll share out this conversation to folks who may be interested. And with that being said, we'll be right back with more Rise and Shine right here on your neighborhood network, Cable 12. Well, again, good morning and rise and shine, Franklin County, bright and early on this Friday morning. We hope that you enjoyed our conversation with the president of Ferrum College, Dr. David Johns. And now we have two individuals who are with us this morning. If you would introduce yourself and kind of what we're going to be talking about this morning, at least in our first segment.
I'm Darnell Moore, and I've got to move the statue, and we're talking about taking our Confederate monument and moving it to a place of historical significance, a place that'll have some context around the history of the monument as opposed to where it is now, and allowing the courthouse to stand as its own monument to justice inside of this county. So, Darnell Moore.
And I'm Gregory Maxwell. I'm a resident here as well. Obviously, I don't have the shirt on, but that is something I support as well. Also want to talk about a proposal I laid out to the Board of Supervisors here at the last meeting. I think it's something important that we all need to know and something we all need to work toward.
Absolutely. And talking a little bit about the statue and the Move the Statue movement, kind of bring us up to speed. Is this, it feels like it's something we've been talking about for a while now, but if I'm not mistaken, it's only about 2 or 2.5 months, but a lot of things have happened and lots of good information. So talk about this movement that we're seeing here in our community.
And the movement's interesting because I think it's a movement across the nation, and it's really this idea of what these statues are. Because we always see whenever there's some kind of injustice somewhere, we immediately kind of turn to these statues, and I think there's always been this question about it. But the truth is, for most of us, those statues represent un-Americanism. And the fact that they were put in front of courthouses is part of why we immediately go after them whenever there's an issue of injustice. Is they were put up in our courthouse. The monument was put up before the American flag was. It was part of a law that was established to establish county seats with a Confederate monument. So when we see instances of injustice, what we see the monument as is this first beacon that this is a place that won't necessarily adhere to the U.S. Constitution, but may still reflect the principles of the Confederate Constitution. And that's something I don't think any Americans want. Even the people who are like, that's a good-looking statue and my grandfather fought for the Confederacy, they're not thinking justice, they're thinking history. And so let's move it to a place that reflects that history properly, and let's allow the courthouses to reflect the U.S. Constitution stronger.
And I think a calling from the very beginning, and the shirt says it so eloquently, is about moving the statue. It's the movement that you guys are a part of is not about tearing down. It's not about destroying or whatever word you want to use. It is about moving it, and as you said, to a place of historical significance. So talk a little bit about, I'll open it up to either one of you. Talk a little bit about that aspect of it.
So just from our standpoint, we understand that everybody looks at it, well, not everyone, but most people look at it as history. And we just want them to know that we don't want to destroy your history, and we don't want to dishonor your grandfathers, your fathers, anybody who worked on building it. We don't want any of that forgotten. But what we do want is to put it somewhere where it can be viewed as a memorial, as they say it is. The courthouse is not for memorials. It's for justice. So we just want to place it in its proper place.
Absolutely. And along that same line of thinking, what are some things that are going on? We know that the Board of Supervisors has put forth a referendum that's going to be coming up in November, a non-binding referendum. So kind of looking for suggestions and guidance from the community. Talk a little bit about that and the importance of making your voice known. I know we're going to be talking about voter registration a little bit later, but about that side of things with the referendum and
I think in terms of the referendum, Franklin County knows how to do things right. Now, I can say that right off the bat. The first time the monument came down, we pieced it back together. We put it at a historical society. We currently have a veterans memorial that includes the names of every single Confederate dead, which is an honest-to-goodness memorial of those men, as opposed to the monument that's standing there that doesn't necessarily reflect enlisted soldiers. It doesn't reflect the names of anybody except a general and a businessman. So we know how to do things correctly. So some of the things that may have been more state mandated, like putting up this monument in front of our courthouse, doesn't necessarily reflect our county. And I think as we come together, and that's the next thing is, how do we come together to make the next decision? Because we have the newest monument in I think all of the country, but I know all of the state of Virginia on public lands. So itself, it is historical. And how are our great-great-grandkids going to look at us and how we manage to put that in a place where they can learn about it? And that's what we have the opportunity to do now. And I think that leads into yours.
It does somewhat. But I just want to say on the referendum vote, I don't believe that it was a good idea to put this referendum in place, just because we all know the demographics of Franklin County. It is a 89.7% white county, 7.9% African American. So by default, the vote is already rigged against us. So from that standpoint, I do feel like Franklin County's residents' voices should be heard, but also it should be looked at with some context. But I do feel like we also need to get our voters together and have everybody registered to vote, so that we can show up in great numbers. But that does lead us into our next point, is the proposal that I sent off to the Board of Supervisors. And this proposal detailed creating a committee. Would be called the Diversity and Inclusion Committee of Franklin County. It would have brought together different members of the county in order to bring togetherness and just fight for things that is in the interest of everyone in the county and not just a particular group. Because what I've seen and what others have seen is that although we have the Board of Supervisors, there's a large group of individuals in Franklin County that don't believe they have a voice in the things that go on in Franklin County. And even if you look at the Board of Supervisors themselves, a lot of the things that they do in the businesses that they run don't reflect Franklin County, because there's a huge section of Franklin County that don't use those services or businesses. And we just want to create something that's going to move us closer together and not divide us further apart. This board, as far as like creating the board and funding the board, it's already in Franklin County's budget to do something like this. Last year, we allocated $2.2 million toward community development. This could be included inside of that. It would only need 10% of that. This year, they upped the community development budget to over $3 million. So even if you look at that, it's only 9% of the $3 million. So we're looking at maybe $300,000 total, and that's for events. That's for the actual board itself, which will be comprised of community reps. It will be comprised of religious members of the community, police officers. It would be comprised of board members, and it would be just everyday citizens from each different part of the county. That way, it's a better representation of Franklin County and not just of a few people.
Absolutely. And I apologize for a poorly worded question, but I don't think there's any better way to ask. But, why is this so important? What makes this such an important issue that you're taking all of this time, this energy? If you drive by the courthouse at any given time, there's individuals walking around with the American flags. There's children. We had a NAACP press conference a couple of weeks ago to discuss this and other issues. Why is it so important to not only you as an individual, but to our community at large?
For me, it's because we've been here before as a nation. We almost go back biblically to the idea of tearing down the monument at the end, once Moses came down with the law, and having this monument set in front of a place with the law. We know what side we want to be on. We know what side of the civil rights movement we want to be on. We know how we want this to go. And in the end, what I'm thinking about is when my children bring their children around, they're going to ask me what I did now. Who was I rooting for now? And then I'm going to be able to tell my children I was rooting for the United States. I was rooting for Franklin County. Because if we can improve this county right now, some of the things that happened during the Civil War, and I think the loss of 300 men is significant. We're feeling that now. I'm a teacher, we have less students in our school system than we should. The great-great-grandchildren of those men that left, of the 80 black men that left Franklin County to go to West Virginia to fight, we don't have those children in our school system now because they're absent. And we're currently setting things up so that our children feel they need to leave Franklin County in order to be successful. And so educating kids to leave the county, I don't want that. I'm looking at my kids and going, man, I want my grandkids here. I want them to purchase a house here and then travel to other places for fun, but to be here now. So I'm doing this so that we have in place, the next generation of kids, so that my kids don't have to deal with a school system that's shrinking as opposed to growing. And it has to do with really keeping our mind towards expanding constitutional access. And I think that is even rooted into that statute. The United Daughters of the Confederacy put it together. And they did this at a time where Jubal Early went out and tried to get homes built for aging Confederates and failed at it miserably. The United Daughters of the Confederacy not only were able to get the homes built, but then were able to start pushing legislative action to get monuments up. They really did some amazing things at a moment in time where they couldn't vote. Mm-hmm. If they could have been able to vote, if they could have been able to own land, if they could have been able to run corporations, we would have improved Franklin County economically, as opposed to having built a monument that we're now fighting over. And whenever we hold somebody down, it holds all of us down, because we're holding down gifted people. And we held down gifted people when we held down those United Daughters of the Confederacy by keeping them in a certain place and only allowing them to do certain things. And this is part of shaking that off. It's important now because I can't let my children come into a place that has restrictions on them, because it'll dampen the whole county.
And like he was saying, it is about the future. I have 2 daughters and a son that are growing up right here in Franklin County. One goes to the middle school, one is at Sontag Elementary, and one will be at Sontag Elementary in the future. And that's really what we're fighting for. Some people look at this as a history issue. I look at it as a moral issue. For me, it's not an issue of historical importance. It's more of an issue of right and wrong. And if we hope for our children to be better than we were, we need to teach them what is right and wrong. The statute's wrong, and they need to know that.
And hearing from you guys this morning and from other events and from following with some other folks here in our community, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about Henry this morning, kind of bringing a little bit of prominence to the discussion. But the statue, as big of an issue as it is, it's such a small part in what you guys are hoping to accomplish for Franklin County as a whole.
I'd say that's definitely true. And Henry definitely lit this fire. I think even with the NAACP, we've been looking at a lot of the laws beforehand, but we had no legs. We weren't moving anywhere. It was just a small concentrated group dealing with it. And when he came in, it was kind of like, now it's time to move. And we were able to follow that. Right.
And the question from so many people in Franklin County has been, because I'm in these people's houses every day at work, is why now? And my response to them would be, why not now? Why wait till later? Why push off for tomorrow what you can do today? Everybody's taught that in church. Why put off tomorrow for what you can do today? The important thing of what Henry started is, he said it in his very first live. It's about our children. We don't want our children to have to go to get a marriage license at the courthouse, and the first thing they have to see is that statue. It's an important piece of Franklin County that needs to be relocated to a more suitable place.
Well, is there anything else that we would like to talk about in this first segment here? We've kind of been all over the place, but we wanted to hit so many different aspects of it. But is there anything else before we take a break? And I know we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about registering to vote and restoring voting rights and that type of thing. But anything else that we'd like to talk about in this segment?
So real quick, I do want to talk about just in terms of the board of the board of supervisors. I think the board of supervisors plays a crucial part in all of this. I do feel like the referendum vote has given them the opportunity to push this down the road so that they don't have to make a decision. And to put it bluntly, it's almost a cop-out, just to be perfectly blunt with you. But it's not unexpected, because they're in a position that they've experienced certain things in their lives, and we've experienced certain things in our lives. And we also believe that at this point in time in Franklin County, it's probably time for them to turn over things to us as younger adults. not to say that we won't change for the sake of change, but it's their job as the Board of Supervisors to train us up in the way that we want Franklin County to go. And all of this is a move toward that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'd say in that same vein, part of what I really love about being around that monument is the opportunity to talk to people. Is there are a lot of people who have been pro-monument and anti-monument and don't know one way or the other, who have come up and spoken with us about their experiences. And some of their experiences, I think, have shifted me from a point where I was like, let's tear it down, to the point where I'm like, no, we can't tear it down. I understand your point of view now.
Right.
And there is a middle ground. And so one of the things I would encourage is, if anybody sees me out there, and I try and get out there on Saturdays at 11, come out and talk to me. Tell me your story. I'd be willing to listen without giving any feedback back. I'd love to hear anybody who has something. And that's part of what I really enjoy about kind of being able to move around the monument, is being able to hear people tell me their opinion, and in some cases sway my heart.
And I think it's important that we have those conversations inside of Franklin County. All of us have something important to say, and what we want people to understand is that we're not these violent people that you see on the media. As you can see, everything that's happened in Franklin County has been very peaceful, and we've tried to be understanding of everything and try to be at peace with everything. And we want people to know that we are willing to have a conversation. So if you want to talk about what the statue means to you, we are more willing to sit and talk with you. You can message me on Facebook. I'll have any conversation with anyone. I'm sure Darnell will tell you the same thing.
Yes. Well, thank you guys for coming out. I know we're going to be taking a break, and we're going to come back in some configuration of individuals to continue our conversation. And again, moving it more towards registering to vote, restoring voting rights, in that aspect of this discussion. But in the meantime, listen to our wonderful sponsors, and we'll be back with more Rise and Shine right here on your neighborhood.
When it's time to celebrate the life of someone special, turn to Connor Bowman Funeral Home. With 2 full-service facilities, we offer professional care and service to our community. 100% owned and operated, offering you the traditional historical Lynch Connor Bowman and Franklin County's most modern and newest facility on 220 North. We can assist you with pre-arranged funerals, and we house an on-site crematory. We can come to your home to make arrangements and pre-arrangements. We offer the release of 1 white dove, 1 memorial video, and video of the service if held in one of our chapels at no cost to you. Connor Bowman Funeral Home, Rocky Mount and 220 North.
Hello, Franklin County. It's Doug Williams with Budget Blinds. We're your turnkey solution to all your window covering needs. I hope you're watching Franklin County Cable 12 Sports, where we bring to you the umpires and the officials each and every week. And every time a bad call is made, that is brought to you by the blind guys. Is this year you're building that new house? How about adding on that sunroom you've been talking about? Well, here at Budget Blinds, we're here to help. The consultation is free, we do the work, and it's all backed by our 5-year no questions asked warranty. This year, let the blind guys help you see the possibilities.
Bojangles Cajun filet biscuit.
Could this get any more perfect?
Pimento cheese. Dude, get it with pimento cheese. Trust me,
Perfect just got perfecter. Introducing Bojangles Cajun Filet Biscuit with our new pimento cheese. Melty, cheddary pimento cheese on our Cajun Spice Chicken. It's perfecter. Bojangles.
It's bow time, y'all.
Again, good morning and rise and shine, Franklin County, bright and early on this Friday morning. We're going to be continuing our conversation, but taking a little bit of a different spin on it and talking about in this segment the most important part of registering to vote, but also restoring voting rights. And we've added another panelist with us this morning. If you would introduce yourself and kind of your role in this process.
Yes, I'm Eddie C., and I'm with Franklin County Voters Matter. And certainly we're all about registering new voters. Mm-hmm. Our goal certainly is to register 3,000 new voters in Franklin County. Sounds like a crazy goal probably, but we're on our way to doing that. We've been working for 2 weekends now, mm-hmm. and we've added lots of locations and lots of opportunities to get that goal accomplished. So my role is just to get that organized, make sure it's going well, and really it's been such an honor to be a part of that movement. And certainly we are connected with the Move the Statue movement. We definitely are in support of that. In fact, we're an integral part of it. Now, having said that, does that mean we turn away any voters or any potential voters? No, we do not. We don't even ask questions about that. So it's a nonpartisan approach to voter registration, but certainly we're not. We are not opposed to letting people know how we feel about that moving the statue.
Mm-hmm. And kind of talking in general terms, not about specific individuals, but mm-hmm. when folks have been coming out to register to vote, mm-hmm. Have they been talking about why they haven't registered in the past, or what are some of the dialogues that you've been having with these folks who are all of a sudden very interested in making sure mm-hmm. they have that right and their voice can be heard in November?
Well, I mean, that's been one of the most interesting parts, is actually carrying on those conversations. Now, not only do we have potential voters stopping and talking with us, we have existing voters in the county that stop and talk to us. So there's so many components of that movement. The conversations with potential voters, the conversations with already registered voters is really an exciting part of what we're doing. I mean, last weekend I remember one conversation where we talked to a former Jordanian citizen who is now a citizen of the U.S., who registered to vote for his first election, and just to hear some of the things about why he wants to vote and why he thinks it's important to vote I'll never forget that conversation. I'll never forget how excited he was to register to vote. And I think that's something that we as Americans take for granted. Voting is not only a right, but it's a responsibility. It is our voice, and I think that issue was alluded to earlier in the earlier segment. How do we speak out if we don't vote? I mean, we can talk and complain and certainly do those things on social media and all of that, but how do we put that into action? Doesn't matter whether I agree with you or not. That is your voice. And that is your opportunity. Greg.
I think you bring up a great point. It is our responsibility. And as someone like me who is a veteran and fought for these things over a number of years, it is important for people to know this is how you get your voice heard. This is how you make changes. If there's a representative in office that you don't agree with, someone that you don't think reflects your values, this is how you make that change.
Sure. And I think something, many of us, whether we're on Gen X or X generation or whatever generation we're part of, we have things that we believe in. We have things that we believe need to be changed on all sides. So how do we be the change? And how do we participate and make sure those things have a chance of happening? Well, the only way that we can do that in a democracy is to vote. We can do all the protesting, we can do all those things, and certainly that brings issues out to the forefront. But ultimately, decisions are made by our legislators, and we have to find legislators or potential legislators who agree with us, and sometimes it's the lesser of two evils. But the fact is, that's the way we are going to be the change. And I think that's the most important thing about voting. Don't complain. Vote. We all have that choice, and it's just an awesome responsibility and an awesome task to be involved in this movement in Franklin County.
What I was always told is that nothing happens by faith alone. My grandparents always told me faith without works is dead. So I know that there's a large Christian community out here in Franklin County. Faith without works is dead.
Well, we can look back at the 60s too, and certainly none of us in this room were a part of that movement necessarily, but we learned from that movement. And as you look at that movement, you see how
Shame
Or you can follow us and fill out the form there. There's many different ways to do that. You can stop by the registrar's office and pick up an application, but it's very easy to do that. Once that's done, you get, you're registered, you're told what precinct you vote in, and you go to that precinct, or you file for the permission to vote by mail, which is really an awesome feature in the state of Virginia. We don't call it early voting, but in reality, that's what it is. You know, that's not even a reason that we have to give anymore for early voting, which starts on September 18th. So it's very easy to fill out that form. I think it has 7 lines on it. It's not hard to do. It's very easy to do, and we even take care of turning that applications in for the people that register. We even make it easier. And we make sure that we are protective of every one of those applications, that no one sees those applications except us, and so we don't share any information with anyone. So it's a very secure and trustworthy process as far as we're concerned, and certainly as far as the state of Virginia is concerned.
And another aspect of that is restoring voting rights to individuals in our community. Talk a little bit about that, what it is, and the process for that.
Well, certainly in the state of Virginia, that's been eased up a little bit too. It's not automatic yet, and certainly we as you know, I would like to see automatic rights restoration, but we're not quite there yet. We're almost. So that it's easy to go to the Secretary of the Commonwealth's website in the Commonwealth of Virginia. You click on a space that says rights restoration, and it brings you to a point where you can just enter your social security number and your name, and they can look to see if your rights have been restored, because with many people they're being restored as they are released. Going back though to before that process happened, there's still a backlog of people whose rights have not been restored, and in Franklin County there's hundreds of them. So they've earned their right to vote. They were incarcerated, yes, but they did their sentence. They did what society expected them to do, and now they deserve their rights back. So, you know, yes, we're all about protecting that right, because it is a right as far as in the state of Virginia. It's not constitutionally a right yet, which we're working on. But certainly we need that to happen for people. And as I said, there's hundreds of potential voters in Franklin County who meet that criteria, whose rights have not been restored yet. So we're working on that.
And we want everybody to know that we are an organization, and we're a group of people that will fight for you.
Yes.
We're not going to work against you, not just in voters' rights, but in all things rights, whether that be civil rights, your Second Amendment rights. We are there to fight for you.
And I know another aspect that we want to talk about are a couple of events that are going to be coming up in the near future. You know, as you said, over the past 2 weekends, you've had registered to vote events throughout the town of Rocky Mount. But I know there's some other events that are coming up in the near future.
Well, certainly every weekend is important to us. Now, tomorrow we're scheduled to be at 4 different locations, from 9 to 1 and 1 to 4 at those locations. Those locations would be at Walgreens, at the old Walgreens in Rocky Mount. There'll be a location in Westlake, which we've yet to be determined yet. We will be at the old Exxon station in Rocky Mount at the corner of Pell and Main. And we will be at the Minute Market located on the Doe Run Road in Rocky Mount. So it's a very diverse group of locations, and certainly we're looking forward to being there. Now, if Jamie helps us out tomorrow, there's a big chance of rain tomorrow, and if that certainly happens, we wouldn't be out there tomorrow. However, that means we'd be out on Sunday at those same locations, which we would be anyway, but we'll have to work doubly hard on Sunday to meet our goals for this weekend. August 18th certainly is the Board of Supervisors meeting, and certainly Greg's probably going to talk about that some, but certainly we need your support there. What does that have to do with voter registration? Not a lot necessarily, but it has something to do with speaking your voice. So we encourage people to come out for the Board of Supervisors meeting on the 18th. On the 28th, we have a really big celebration in honor of John Lewis, and also the fact that Martin Luther King spoke in D.C. in front of the Lincoln Monument, on the Lincoln Memorial that day. And so that's a very important day as far as voting rights are concerned. And we're going to have a huge celebration that day in Mary Elizabeth Park. And also we'll have celebrations of that right to vote, including the food trucks and registration there also. It's just going to be a really nice event as far as music, and you know, we're really cognizant of the restrictions we have as far as COVID is concerned, and we'll be monitoring that. But it'll be a really good opportunity to come out and celebrate the right to vote.
Right. And as Eddie was saying, we do want everybody to come out on August the 18th to the Board of Supervisors meeting, show your support, and even if you're not in support of what we're talking about, we still want you there, because your voice deserves to be heard as well. So everybody who can, please come out on the 18th, just this Tuesday. You can come to either part. You can come to the public comment portion, which is at 6 p.m., or you can also come to the first portion, which starts around 1 o'clock. I'll be there. I'm sure Eddie and Darnell will be there as well. Henry will be there, and we're going to be there. We're going to be answering your questions. We're going to be there to talk to you, and make sure you make your voice heard. This is what the democratic process is all about. This is what America is about. This is what makes America great.
Yeah, and as you hit on the head there, with information and communication is the key. So if folks want to keep up with the voting, we'll kind of take it in a different part. If folks want to keep up with the voting registration side of things, I know that there's at least been a Facebook page or a Facebook group that's been created for folks to keep up with that aspect of it. Could you lead us in that direction?
Franklin County Voters Matter. That's the name of the Facebook page. And certainly we want all of you to become a part of that, all of you that's listening today. That group in just a few days, just less than a week, has grown to almost 300 members. And we will continue to grow. Now, that means as we grow that page, when you like that page, I personally think you have a responsibility to support us. Not necessarily the moving of the statute, but support us, and I'd love that. I mean, don't get me wrong, that would be very, very important to me personally. However, we need help in getting all this work done. And when you like the page, then think about your commitment. What is your commitment to this? What is your commitment to making Franklin County a better place? How can you be involved in that? It's a very important decision that you're going to make when you like that page, and you're going to be receiving lots of important information, lots of important things about the movement, lots of important news and dates about voting. As I said, very importantly, September 18th starts early voting in Virginia. And if you're registered to vote, you certainly have the right to start voting on September 18th. And so we even have those applications available to vote early at all of the locations. So yeah, the Facebook page is very important. We're excited about that. It looks great. You know, every night we report how many likes we have on that day. And I'm so honored to be a part of that social media piece of it. We're going to be developing apps on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and so we're definitely going after the new voters who need to speak out. Not saying that we as adults, older adults, don't need to do the same thing. However, a lot of us are already doing that. We need to get everybody involved that we can. And social media is certainly an important way of doing that.
And kind of moving over to the Move the Statue movement, for lack of better terms. I know it's a lot of individuals doing their part and a lot of, but is there a cohesive, what's the best way to stay informed on the latest with that movement?
Well, I mean, you certainly can follow any one of us, and we'll be able to get you that information. But the best thing to do is just be active, be out there. When you see one of us out in the community, to stop us and ask us different things. That's the best way to do it. Certainly, you can message me directly. Or any one of us are going to be available for you. The important thing is just to remember that we are not here to create trouble. We just want to help in any way we can, no matter what side of the issue you're on.
And I think Greg brought up a really good point there. We are very responsive, and so you can expect an answer from us pretty quickly. And any help that you need, or any questions that you might have about the voting process, about the movement itself as far as moving the statue, anything really, you have a need, we may be able to direct you in the right path as far as resolving that issue for you. So again, we're very responsive, we love the work we're doing, and it's all about making Franklin County a better place.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for coming out and talking with us this morning, and for all of the work that you're continuing to do to bring our community together. And if you guys have any other developments, be sure to let us know, and we can pass them along to our viewers. But again, we appreciate you coming out and taking the time to talk with us.
Well, thank you very much for having us.
Thank you so much.
And with that being said, it's going to wrap up our Friday edition of Rise and Shine. We appreciate you tuning in and spending a little bit of time out of your busy schedule with us. Remember to head over to our website, cable12ynn.com, and you'll be able to see meteorologist Jamie Singleton's latest 7-day forecast. Fortunately, I believe it's looking a little bit rainy for tomorrow, but maybe he can work a little bit of his meteorology magic on that. I'm not sure how much pull he has on that end, but he can at least make us feel better. But with that being said, we'll be back on Monday with more Rise and Shine right here on your neighborhood network, Cable 12.
I'm gonna climb me a mountain. I'm gonna ride down the river. See corn on the meadow, blueberry jelly on the vine. There's a little country church that brings me closer to my Savior. Little bit of heaven, a whole lot of love.